Man, what a depressingly somber looking day. I mean, it's like hell on earth or Dante's Inferno. Okay, on a serious note, hello gang. I am off to the cinema this afternoon to go check out Ron Howard's Inferno.
Oh my God.
I will look at the camera and blink every time I say the word Inferno. I gotta be really very honest, I am not a fan of these Dan Brown cinematic adaptations at all. Like, I thought the Da Vinci Code was silly but forgettable. I thought its sequel from 2009, Angels and Demons, was one of the most unrelentingly dumb films that I think Ron Howard has ever directed.
You're pretty sick, huh, son?
Well, it must have been something I ate.
Or that Tom Hanks has ever starred in.
Houston, we have a problem.
I thought they were juvenile and silly. Sorry. Ron Howard as a director, obviously one of the great populist filmmakers of his generation. And he's made, of course, some of the most memorable films of the last 20 to 30 years. Shut up. This is totally underrated. But if you look at his recent crop of films on his resume, there's a lot of stinkers on that list, like The Dilemma. Does anyone remember The Dilemma?
No. No.
You know, Howard as a director hasn't made a truly great, masterful film. I would argue since Cinderella Man and Frost Nixon, there's been a lot of misses over the last decade plus. So,
Oh, that's silly.
and come on, Ronnie, why are you continuing to make sequels in this Dan Brown cinematic universe where there is one sequel that everyone wants you to make to a very iconic and classic film from the 1980s?
It's right.
I speak for everybody. Despite my animosity towards the last film, Angels and Demons, I am bravely journeying out to the cinema. I'm going to check out this bad boy and I'll be back with a review. Rarely has the threat of billions of human beings being killed has felt as insignificant and inconsequential as it does in Inferno.
Why this map of hell?
This film takes itself as seriously as a heart attack.
No problem, just having a heart attack.
But it comes across as so unpardonably silly, it reaches a level of unintentional camp value. It's also one of those movies that contains a lot of groan-inducing dialogue. Some of the howlers include, "Professor Langdon is in possession of the Faraday tube." Or, "The circles of hell have been rearranged." Or my personal favorite, "People that are exposed to this virus will experience horrors completely unnatural to this earth." Oh my God. What? I hate to say this, but Inferno is as predictably awful as I was expecting. I don't go into every film wanting to hate it or wanting it to be bad. I wanted to be surprised by Inferno, but I just wasn't. It was just It's so stupid, and it's so silly, and it's so preposterous, and it's actually so tedious and dull. I just can't believe this is the product of an Academy Award-winning actor and an Academy Award-winning director.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
This movie is so indefensibly bad in so many categorical ways. I'm growing dizzy just pondering them. The story is about this completely crazy billionaire who's played by Ben Foster, who decides, like many crazy billionaires before him, the best way to deal with overpopulation is to kill 90% of the human population. So he develops this deadly virus called Inferno.
This plague is real.
And we only have 48 hours to stop an extinction level event.
And plans to unleash it on the world to eradicate most of humanity and sort of wipe the slate clean. Okay? What? And of course, Tom Hanks returns as symbologist, is that how you pronounce that? Robert Langdon, whose keen deductive mind would make Batman and Sherlock Holmes blush with envy. It's, at the very least, it starts kind of compellingly because he wakes up in a hospital with a grazed gunshot wound to his head. So he's all dazed and confused. He conveniently has amnesia. He doesn't remember anything that happened to him within the last 48 hours.
Everything is out of focus.
And of course, we all know that amnesia is the single most conveniently used plot point to help propel a narrative forward and to provide it with some manufactured conflict. He has no idea how he got there. He has no idea how he got the bullet wound in his head. He has no idea why he's covered in a rash. But he's there, and he's sort of befriended by this doctor who's played by Felicity Jones, the beautiful Felicity Jones.
Nice to have you back, Professor.
So anyway, she befriends Langdon, and she treats his wounds, and very quickly it is discovered that, yes, there are evil forces that are hot on their tails. They scurry back to her apartment for safety, where they both discover that he is in possession of this device that leads them on a series of ridiculously convoluted and complex clues to discover the whereabouts of the virus and where it's going to be planted that will be unleashed to eradicate most of humanity.
It's Dante's Inferno.
Dante defined our modern conception of hell 700 years ago. But these circles of hell have been rearranged.
What? There are forces, both good and bad, that want Langdon.
Human lives are at stake. If a plague exists, you know what government will do to get it.
At least it didn't have an antimatter bomb like Angels and Demons. Antimatter bomb. As to why this film just simply doesn't work, surprisingly, Ron Howard's direction might be the worst part of this movie. Like, Ron Howard, he is a great filmmaker. He is a treasure of the film world, but overall style in this film is so schizophrenic and over the top and hyperactive, and he lays in a lot of scenes where Langdon is suffering from visions of hell that kind of come and go, and it's done so chaotically that it actually induces migraines. It's a very ugly and messy sort of directorial and editorial style that just got really tiresome as the film progressed.
Professor, you are having visions, aren't you? The people behind this would do anything to protect the truth.
I expect a disciplined filmmaker like Howard to create at least a good-looking film out of this narrative mess, but even the film is just simply not pleasant to sit through. And, you know, Langdon as a character, this is another problem. And this is a problem that sort of plagued the Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons. He's not an interesting and charismatic and charming character.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
These films never make use of Tom Hanks. Speaking of national treasures, Tom Hanks is one of our greatest living actors, but when it really boils down to it, they really could have just got any actor with some presence to play this character, because he's less of a flesh and blood human being than he is essentially a puppet at the mercy of the plot to explain what's happening, who relates to who, and what's going on here.
This is what I have been seeing. Look, look, look. This is not in the original painting.
Here's another one.
This film involves a lot of scenes of Langdon and the nurse running, and then they stop, and then they talk about things, and then they explain things, and then they're on the run again. And then they talk about things, and then they explain things, and then they're on the run again. I hate it when films are so monotonously talky. There is a lot of tired and hackneyed dialogue exchanges where characters have sort of revelations about what's happening in the plot, and just in case the audience wasn't smart enough to pick up on what they're talking about, they have to take these laborious pains to further explain what they're talking about. And it's just like, oh my god, just shut up and propel the movie forward. There's also this plot twist in the film that isn't anywhere near as surprising as the filmmakers actually think it is, because there's a couple of little clues dropped very early on. The plot twist is just it's a botched job, and I don't think that the actor in question or Howard handled it with any reasonable tact at all. It's not shocking, and it's not surprising. And when it does finally happen and you see Hanks giving it his all to relay a character that's legitimately shocked by it all, you kind of have to just shake your head like, really? No. There's one really good thing about Inferno. The European locales are very picturesque and beautiful. They're nice to look at. They're almost as nice to look at as Felicity Jones. So in terms of like opulent eye candy, yeah, there's a lot of nice things to look at in this movie. Quite a bit. Ron Howard is a director that is capable of greatness. He has made, as I've alluded to earlier, some truly memorable, great films. But when you consider films like this, and Angels and Demons, and The Dilemma, I mean, these are really bad blips on a fairly storied and respected career, and I'm kind of worried about Ron Howard going forward. Like, I'm almost kind of dreading the thought of another film, not only in this series, but from Ron Howard, and I feel kind of ill thinking that way.
Couldn't be that you had too much to drink now, could it? It's been such a long time since he's made a film that, legitimately engrossed me. Inferno, it builds towards this climax where the virus is about to be unleashed, and it's really overblown, and it doesn't generate any level of tension, because, I mean, quite frankly, honestly, yes, they're going to stop the bomb. They're going to stop the virus from being unleashed. There's not a scintilla of suspense in this film.
Oh my god. Dante's Inferno isn't fiction, it's a prophecy.
What? And that's just kind of the overall vibe that I got from Inferno. I mean, this film barely achieves the moniker of a bad, disposable, made-for-cable television movie, because that's really what it feels like to me. And Tom Hanks, he just looks withered and tired, and he looks really disinterested to be in this film. It's obviously a film of contractual obligation on his part, not a film where he seems wholeheartedly and passionately invested in. I'm hoping and praying to the movie gods that Ron Howard and Tom Hanks do reteam, because some of their past partnerships have been gold, for something truly, substantial and memorable and good, because I'm tired of these Dan Brown adaptations. I'm tired for how much time they suck out of my life. I don't want to see another film in this universe. I just didn't care about anything in Inferno. I didn't care about the stakes. I didn't care about billions of lives being lost. I didn't care about this Inferno virus. And you know what? I left the film feeling empty. So anyway, there you go. There is my totally enthusiastic review for Inferno. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of the film. Also, let me know in the comments below what you think your favorite Ron Howard films or your favorite Tom Hanks films are. Once again, thank you very much for watching. If you could like this video, I'd really appreciate it. Also, if you could subscribe to my channel, that would mean the world to me. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you all at the movies.